we're going to go over to our third speaker. Lucie, are your colleagues here? Do they need more time? Is timing good?
All good, we can go. Thanks.
Okay, cool. All right. We're going to hear about drones in the marine context. Yes. Thermal drones for non-invasive monitoring. Love this. Okay, take it away.
Okay, so hi everyone, and thank you, Stephanie, for having me today. Thank you for the opportunity. So I'm Lucie Laporte-Devylder. I'm a doctoral candidate at WIPC and at the University of Southern Denmark. I'm also part of a project called Wild Drone, and I wanted to start the presentation by giving a few words about what is Wild Drone. So briefly to present what Wild Drone is, it's a European Union funded project that brings together wildlife biologists, drone engineers, and computer vision scientists. And we are all united around the common goal of developing drone technology for wildlife conservation. So within the consortium, we are a network of 13 PhD students with different areas of expertise that complement each other. And we work on three main themes that really are at the intersection of those disciplines. So theme one focuses on developing innovative applications of drones in ecology and conservation. Theme two is about innovation of the drone designs and the control of the drones, working, for instance, on multi-drone systems and ensuring that drone operations are safe, flexible, and ethical. And then theme three focuses on developing computer vision techniques that facilitate tasks that are particularly relevant for conservation. So, for example, automatic detection, tracking, or individual characterization of various wildlife. So, as you understood, within Wild Drone, I'm one of the biologists, and my research focuses on the use of drones for the conservation of large mammals. And what I'm particularly interested in is the non-invasive aspect that offer drones in wildlife research. And I'm also interested in the multimodal possibilities that you can get with the technology, for example, with the combination of infrared imagery with RGB imagery. And so today I will be talking more about the entry we submitted as part of the Tech for Wildlife Photo Challenge, where we share the video you can see here. Press play, yeah. So this video, it's from a fieldwork I conducted earlier in La Réunion Island, where I was looking at thermal tracks of cetaceans. So in this area, I was particularly looking at humpback whales, but I'm also working with other marine mammal species in other areas. And what we are doing here is we are using thermal cameras on drones to detect and track the movement of cetaceans with the traces and the prints that they leave in the water. So for example, what you see on the left side of the video here is one example of those tracks. And then I didn't finish, yeah. So what we are doing with those tracks, the principle is that it's based on simple tracking methods that originate as far back as our hunter-gatherer populations. So as an animal walks in the snow, for example, it leaves tracks and prints behind after it has traveled through the landscape. And you can get information from those tracks on various elements. So for example, which species was present, the size of the group, like how many individuals were there, for instance, the possible age composition of the group, were there only adults, were there juvenile present, and possibly even details on the sex, the age, or the size of the individuals that left those prints, depending on the species. And in cetaceans, so animals such as whales and dolphins, they also actually leave signs of their presence and their movement after they have come to the surface to breathe. So what you see here is an example of that. It's called a fluke print. So they typically have this round shape with a very smooth surface area. And we don't know too much about them, but we know they are formed from the upward and downward movement of the flukes of the whales that they do when they swim or they dive. Now in the infrared spectrum, mixing of water layers of different temperature can make those prints much more apparent and visible. And this is what you see on the image on the right side here. So what we are doing with those prints is we are looking at different metrics on the prints themselves and on different clusters of the prints and establish methods to see what information they give us on the animals that left them, on their movement and on their behavior. So for example, as I mentioned before, you can look at what species was present. So here, for instance, on the left picture, you get tracks of spinner dolphins. And on the right picture, you see humpback whales. And both pictures were taken in the same water and at the same altitude. You can also look at how many individuals were present. what direction they were swimming from, and if they changed direction. And then we are also looking at swimming dynamics and behavior. So for example, were there changes in the diving sequences or in the swim speed in response to obstacles or disturbances, for instance. And this can be particularly useful when performing large-scale marine mammal surveys over vast areas, for example, because those tracks remain visible for several minutes. So typically when you perform aerial survey with onboard observers or with high-resolution cameras, if you miss the small window of opportunity when a whale comes up to the surface to breathe, then you might just miss it altogether and conclude there are no cetaceans in the area. But because those tracks, they remain visible for longer time, thermal footprints can actually extend the time frame when marine mammals are normally visible. And they can even give a short history of the path that has been traveled. So as part of my research, we are also currently developing deep learning models to detect thermal tracks as additional cues for detection. And I'm stopping here because it's the end of my time, but thank you for your attention. If you have questions.
I feel like we might need to get you back as a full talk. That was so cool. My mind's blown. I just didn't think this would be a way. Yeah, Alex has said it perfectly. This is the coolest thing about Tech for Wildlife is you just get to discover these different uses and like these different projects that are happening. Like I've known about Wild Drone, but I had no idea you guys were doing this and like that this was a possible application of thermal tech. What thermal cameras? Is it just the ones that like your drones come with, or are they separate ones that you add to your drones?
No, this one is off the shelf from DJI Mavic Thermal.
Okay, cool. That is so awesome. Okay. Could one do this? Yeah, great question. Could you do? I know Wild Drone is in the name, but like, could you do this with satellites? Like,
if you get very good sensors, I don't know the quality of the sensor or the thermal sensors on satellite. But
Lucie, thank you so much. That was wonderful. And thank you for everyone for participating in the Tech for Wildlife Photo Challenge. Those 3 talks were incredible.